buried.
The big question is what is going to be done if a dead body is unidentified and action needs to be taken. Right in the mortuary is where you have 6 unidentified bodies who died and are yet to be claimed by their immediate families. However, efforts by the police in reaching their immediate families have not been successful. The public are hereby urged to report any missing person to the nearest police station to avoid such a dilemma. For GRTS News, I am Abdullah Baji.
Well, we're going to take a very short break now. The news continues when we come back. Well, over to news from outside the Gambia now. 5 United Nations peacekeepers, all believed to be Indians, are among 12 people who were confirmed dead in an attack on a UN convoy in South Sudan's volatile eastern state of Jonglei. The United Nations Secretary General says he is appalled by the incident and called for urgent investigation into the incident. We have details of that story in this report.
5 UN peacekeepers and at least 7 civilians working for the UN mission in South Sudan were killed in an ambush Tuesday. The peacekeepers killed were all Indian. The incident took place in the turbulent eastern state of Jonglei. Jonglei is a remote state hit hard by tribal violence and fighting between government forces and insurgents. The Sudanese army believes the attack may have been perpetrated by local insurgents led by David Yoyo, but this has not been confirmed. The UN Security Council called for an investigation to be conducted swiftly while reiterating support for the UN mission in South Sudan. The UN Secretary General said he was appalled by the attack.
He calls on the government of South Sudan to bring the perpetrators of this crime to justice. He recalls that the killing of peacekeepers is a war crime that falls under the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court.
Since winning independence in July 2011, South Sudan continues to struggle to enforce rule of law over its territory. It is still reeling from more than 2 decades of civil war that left the region awash with guns and torn by ethnic hatred. In February, 85 people, mostly shepherds, women and children, were killed in Jonglei State. Since then, 3,000 Sudanese soldiers, backed by 5,000 UN peacekeepers, have been sent there to protect civilians.
A senior Pentagon official has said that North Korea is planning multiple missile launches in the coming days that will be in addition to the 2 missiles on its east coast. U.S. officials say Pyongyang could test launch at any time. CNN's Chris Lawrence takes a closer look at the Pentagon's possible reaction and plans.
The U.S. has been poring over the latest satellite images of North Korea, and the intelligence assessment is they've likely completed all preparations to launch. An administration official says the missiles have probably received their liquid fuel. Even though the U.S. has no way to confirm that information on the ground, the military is sending a clear message to Kim Jong-un. It's not when you launch the Musadan missiles, but where. If a test missile flies out over the water, the U.S. Pacific commander does not want it shot down.
I would not recommend that. If we have any predetermined INW, we should have a sense of where it's going to be aimed.
But if it's aimed over land near Japanese territory, interceptor missiles could be used to destroy it.
And if it was defense of our allies, I would recommend that action.
Admiral Samuel Locklear said this launch could be different from previous tests when the U.S. had significant indications on what was about to happen before liftoff.
To understand the direction of the launch, where it was at.
U.S. radars will calculate the trajectory of North Korea's new road-mobile missile, but Locklear admits the U.S. won't know as much as soon.
In this case, in the scenario we're in, we're probably looking at being able to see it being in a general location, and then to sense a launch.
Will North Korea launch or stand down? Locklear says it's hard to read Kim Jong-un.
His father and his grandfather, as far as I could see, always figured into their provocation cycle an off-ramp of how to get out of it. And it's not clear to me that he has thought through how to get out of it.
And U.S. officials believe that this launch could happen without a standard mariner's notice. That's a warning to ships and planes to avoid a specific area during a specific time because that's where the missile could land. It's also a warning to the world, a heads up, so to speak, that a launch is imminent. North Korea has issued in the past, but this time, U.S. officials say they're operating under the assumption the North may not issue a warning. Chris Lawrence, CNN, the Pentagon.
Well, the gun control debate in America has divided opinion in the country, with pro- and anti-gun lobbyists finding it difficult to find a common ground. Meantime, new polls show an overwhelming majority of Americans support new and tougher background checks for gun purchases. Lawmakers, though, don't seem to be on the same page. They are still arguing over whether or not to begin debate on gun law reforms, but a bipartisan deal is in the works. CNN's Chris Como has more in this report.
Chris.
Mike, what can I do for you?
I'm looking for home protection shotgun.
Okay, I'm going to bring you down to our shotgun section.
Seems simple, but there's more to it than you might think. Every purchase from a licensed dealer requires a federal background check. Are you under indictment? No. Have you been convicted of any felony? No. 27 personal questions, including criminal and mental health history, all requiring government confirmation. Add potential state and city laws, thousands across the country, and it could feel like an obstacle course.
There's a background check for the rifle. Then if you live in the city, there's the rifle shotgun card. Then if you have a pistol, it's also pistol license.
But this pales in comparison to the pain the nation felt on December 14th in Newtown, Connecticut. The most vulnerable victimized by dangerous weapons in the wrong, sick hands. CNN's latest poll shows people want it to stop. Calls to do something, resulting in demands for expanded background checks, despite the fact they wouldn't have stopped the Newtown shooter.
We know that background checks can work, but the problem is loopholes in the current law let so many people avoid background checks altogether.
Gun control advocates want all gun sales, not just those by dealers, subject to background checks.
This background check law that we're talking about is enforcing the law.
Colin Goddard works for the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence. He is a gun violence victim, shot 4 times at Virginia Tech 6 years ago.
How are you supposed to know if someone's got a felony record? How are you supposed to know if someone's got a restraining order or someone's got a dangerous mental illness without doing a background check? You're supposed to, what, look at them really hard?
Gun rights advocates fear checking all sales could lead to a national gun registry and maybe confiscation. The larger concern, making it harder to buy a gun lawfully may not stop massacres and handgun violence. Before owning this Long Island gun store, owner Mike Marinello was a police officer for 11 years.
And your experience as a cop, did that hold true?
In 11 years, I've never had a legal pistol licensee use his firearm in a crime.
Gun control advocates say the nearly 2 million people who've been denied guns is proof of effectiveness.
Most of those people, it turns out, were not on prohibited lists. Most of them were false positives. Their name looked like somebody else. There was records in there that were incomplete. The first thing you have to do is take the system you have and get it fixed and make it work.
Mike says the big issue isn't the law, but enforcement.
If somebody comes in and they're hell-bent on buying a gun, we let them fill out the form, and they fail. And then, in a perfect world, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, we'll go arrest that person.
That's the big catch, right?
Current laws on the books would make this state the safest in the union if they were enforced.
In my case,
this transaction is a proceed.
The system worked. After 25 minutes of completing forms and waiting for approval, I had my shotgun.
Thank you very much.
Chris Cuomo, CNN, Merrick, New York.
And from the U.S., a reminder of our top stories before we go. Ajah Dr. Asadunjai Saidi and the President of the African Court on Human and People's Rights have been discussing the work of the Continental Court. The International Monetary Fund's mission chief for the Gambia has said that tourism still has the potential to strengthen the national economy despite the lingering effects of the 2010-2011 crop failure. Unidentified attackers have ambushed a United Nations convoy in South Sudan's restive Jonglei state, killing 5 UN peacekeepers and 7 others. And a top Pentagon official has revealed that Pyongyang is planning to conduct multiple missile launches in the coming days. Well, that's your bulletin for tonight. Thanks for the pleasure of your company and enjoy the rest of our programs.